Raylan Group to wind up. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, I'm Florian Heiser and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I thought we'd have a look at this article that was shared to me from the Financial Review about the Raylan Group. Now, I've talked about the Raylan Group before. Back in July I did a video showing the news that they were on the verge of collapsing because of the apartment downturn. And then a few days later, it turns out that they'd spent everyone's deposits. And the investors then, even in September, investors stand to lose millions because they loaned their deposits to Raylan Group. So, I mean, here we go. I'm looking in a video. What are the odds? That's pretty funny. So you can see here, guys, this has been an issue that has been coming for a while. And Raylan are a huge developer with projects in Sydney and Queensland, among others. And let's have a look at this article. So Raylan bought Bitcoin and houses while collapsing into $564 million in debt. I feel sorry for the depositors here. Hundreds of apartment buyers in the Raylan collapse will not recover any of their lost deposits, which were used to run an insolvent company and pay for director William O'Dwyer's holidays and Bitcoin purchases, according to the collapsed developer's administrator. This is funny how I've met people like this before. Their company is going under and they think, screw it, I'll just go on holidays. It's phoenixing, I'll just spend. You know, I've met people that have done that before. And it hurts if you're on the receiving end, you're not getting paid, or if, well, in this case, if you're an investor and getting screwed over. Grant Thornton's final report, filed to ASIC on November 28th, said Raylan owed its lenders, bankers, trade creditors, and buyers, many of Chinese backgrounds, who released their down payments for apartments on the Gold Coast and Sydney, a total of $564 million. The company collapsed at the end of July, appointing voluntary administrators after 20 years as a sales agency and developer. 20 years! So when these developers are telling you, oh, don't worry, just look to a reputable company, look to one that's been there for a while. 20 years? Wouldn't that inspire you with confidence? At this stage, it is unlikely there will be any surplus funds remaining after the group assets have been sold and the secured creditors, NAB, Westpac, Wingate, and Balmain, are paid in priority to all other creditors, the report said. So there you go. There is the issue, guys. Because the banks, well, they're going to lose, but they're secured. They're on the list before you are. However, any funds recovered by a liquidator, should the group proceed to liquidation, in a successful litigation action against a related or third party, will be made available to the general body of creditors. Oh, fantastic, isn't that nice? And that's maybe they're going up to the director. We'll have to see what happens. Some creditors were looking at a class action for claims against these third parties, mainly those who are aware of the company's dealings, but have yet to identify the parties in question. Grant Thornton joint administrators Said Jani, Philip Campbell Wilson, and Graham Killer also found evidence Raylan's sole director, William O'Dwyer, might have breached parts of the Corporations Act and acted fraudulently by manipulating financial records to conceal released apartment deposits. Since 2008, Raylan buyers had been releasing their deposits put down for apartments as a loan to the company, earning up to 20% in interest, a practice likened to the issue of debentures or types of investment that pay interest, Grant Thornton said. Buyers never received formal investment prospectus and only signed a basic 2 to 3 page agreement letters, with Mr. O'Dwyer guaranteeing the repayment of the deposits and interest. So has he personally guaranteed them? So can they go him personally? The interest was capitalized and released to owners during the settlement of their apartments, reducing the price of their purchases. So I can see why this is attractive to people. I mean, 20% deposit, you're not going to earn any money on it anywhere. It'll just be sitting on a trust. You're confident that the project is going to go ahead. The developer can use the funds for something else. I mean, it makes sense. You get a discount on your apartment at the end. I can see why people went into this. But there's the issue. Sometimes some things can be too good to be true. As the group struggled with insolvency from 2014, deposits from one project were often used to pay out purchases of other projects or to fund business operations. And this is where it's all falling apart. This is why if you're administering a contract on a construction project for a builder, you need to check their finances. Because the problem is you don't want to overpay. And then they'll use that fund on another job to keep it going. It kind of turns into this perpetual Ponzi scheme where you need to keep getting more deposits coming in to keep all the projects going, to pay all the people out. Some owners released more than their deposits in return for interest of up to $6.3 million in one case. I mean, that's insane, that much interest. How much are you paying? Oh, I mean, is that the interest or is that how much they released? For an unsecured creditor. Wow. Other unsecured creditors and non-apartment buyers also lent money to Raylan through fundraising events. Some of these creditors have lent more than $2 million each. Grant Thornton said this money-raising scheme was a breach of the Corporations Act, as Raylan did not hold an Australian financial services license. The company had also been running an unregistered managed investment scheme. Mr. O'Dwyer also withdrew some money from the company. Grant Thornton's analysis of cash flow between 2016 and 2019 indicated he spent some of it on personal expenses and Bitcoin. So he got into the Bitcoin and holidays. So wind-up vote recommended. Grant Thornton has recommended creditors vote to wind up the company when they meet at the second creditors meeting on December 9th. While Mr. O'Dwyer had proposed two possible deals that would get around a liquidation, the administrators were against them in favor of a liquidation as the group was clearly insolvent. A liquidator, for instance, can make a claim of about $248 million against Mr. O'Dwyer on behalf of creditors for allowing the company to trade while insolvent. Raylan failed because it overloaded on unprofitable apartment projects, which struggled amid rising construction costs, worsened by the failure of two of its builders, Steve Nolan Construction and Essex Projects, whose tradies they had to pay out, Grant Thornton said. It was also brought undone through poor management and an unsustainable deposits release scheme, the administrator added. In a statement to the administrators, Mr. O'Dwyer attributed the collapse to the housing slump. As any construction company does from time to time, the Raylan Group experienced a downturn in the property market for high-rise developments, issues relating to contractors and subcontractors being wound up, and the flow-on consequences of increased cost to find alternatives to complete construction projects, he said. Well, here's a question. Would you want to buy into any of these buildings if they're having these issues on these projects? Do you think the subbies are going to be as diligent as they would otherwise be if they're not getting paid on time or if they're getting the dodge? How do you know? How do you know what happened there? It's an element of risk. It's an unknown factor. It's something you need to consider as a buyer. Mr. O'Dwyer also said he had no reason to believe the Ruby and Sapphire development in Queensland and the Arncliffe project in Sydney would not be successful. Each development was anticipated to be profitable, with all creditors being satisfied and investors provided with complete units on the terms as agreed. However, as a consequence of the builder for the Ruby development substantially increasing its quote for the development of Ruby Tower 2 by approximately $96 million, and for Ruby Tower 3 by more than $100 million, the financier for the development of Ruby Stages 2, 3, and 4 withdrew from the development. Well, there you go. You know what that means, guys. It means they've done the first tower and they've gone, oh crap, we've lost a lot of money from this. Nope, we're not doing the next ones. It's going to cost more. That's what it is. They're learning. They've learned. This meant that the Raylan Group temporarily did not have sufficient working capital to meet its ongoing liabilities in respect of all of its developments. Mr. O'Dwyer said he placed Raylan in administration, hoping it would provide him with time to secure alternative finance for the development of the Ruby projects. There are no winners in the Raylan collapse, not even for secured creditors like private lenders Wingate and Balmain, which will be paid through the sale of Raylan's remaining assets such as land and management rights in Queensland and rent roll in New South Wales, Mr. Jehani said. None of its more sophisticated stakeholders, such as its financiers, saw trouble, he added. Instead of rushing to do a standalone deal, it's better to take a step back and look at the developer's business and ask them more probing questions, he said. You've got to do your homework before lending the money. You've got to take time to look at the sponsor of the project. Does it make sense that a company would run their own in-house sales or be run by a one-man band? Well, there you go, guys. It looks like the chapter of Raylan is coming to an end. Be interesting to see if they actually do vote to wind up on the 9th of December. What do you think, guys? I feel sorry for the depositors, but buyer beware, really, in this regards. But I mean, he's spending not on holidays and bitcoins. He couldn't be any more stereotypical, could you? Let me know what you all think in the comments, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoy my content and want to help us produce more, I have a Patreon where you can make a donation. We also have eBay and Amazon affiliate links where we receive a commission every time you make a purchase that doesn't cost you a cent. Thank you to all the people that have been using it on Black Friday. I guess that's now an Australian holiday as well for shopping. We also have our own merch on the HiSuccess website. You can find the link below, and Patreon and PayPal and Ethereum if you want to make a donation. Thank you for all your help, guys. Have a great day, and I will talk to you later. Bye for now.